What up? All my scientists, my artists, my philosophers, my geneticists, my roboticists, my biologists, my archaeologists, my astronomers. Let's get busy. This has been Busy from the Burbs. Cheer. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This has been Busy from the Burbs, broadcasting to you from Osaka, Japan. Yeah, not much on the agenda today. Completely winging it, actually. Quick look at the news today. Rosie O'Donnell's missing daughter found. Okay, that's good, right? I would say something like that couldn't have been very difficult given her size, but that would be kind of a mean thing to say, wouldn't it? FDA approves controversial little pink pill, but with restrictions. Pill aims to increase a woman's desire for sex. Well, look at that, Bill Cosby. Had you just waited, 30 years? That you would have had this pill, you would have had your Spanish fly. Alright? You wouldn't have had to drug women to the point where they, go unconscious and then rape their unconscious sleeping bodies. You sick fuck. That said, I think still administering the little pink pill to women without their consent, without their knowledge, it's equally as criminal. Marco Rubio performs his best Tom Brady to Wes Welker imitation. Okay. That's not going to win you votes, Marco Rubio. You're so far behind in polling. I think he's at 9% or something. It's not going to work. Clinton, again, dismissing the significance of the emails that she sent containing classified information. Here we have a situation in which other people, namely, chief among them, General Petraeus and Edward Snowden, who did the same thing, and General Petraeus' career was ended, and Edward Snowden is now in exile in Russia. It seems to be a double standard there. And it should come as a mystery to no one that the reason that the Department of Justice is moving so slowly with this investigation is as a direct result of the fact that Democrats occupy all of the positions of power within the Department of Justice as a result of their appointment by Democratic President Barack Obama. That should frustrate and infuriate people, because the role of government is to carry out the business of the people. And if a former Secretary of State who was using a personal email server completely unauthorized to conduct state business is beyond the pale. That's not something that should be allowed or should be tolerated to any degree. That's something that should be taken up and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. She has absolutely no business continuing to run her presidential campaign. And I hesitate to say that I agree with Donald Trump when he says that, she should stop, or that she will stop, or that he said he can't see her continuing to campaign. We'll see. Chelsea Manning found guilty, but no solitary confinement for contraband. So apparently, Chelsea Manning had some type of food or something. There was some issue whereby Chelsea Manning had some... Oh, it was toothpaste. A tube of anti-cavity toothpaste, MKIC, was found in your possession past its expiration date of 9 April 2015. They're charging... I don't know how much more ridiculous you can get than this. This is absurd. You're charging him for having an expired tube of toothpaste. Are you crazy? Are you insane? And we're not going to get a commonsensical answer from the powers that be. We're going to get a very rigid black and white, well, the tube of toothpaste has an expiration date and the blah, 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 the rules. No, motherfucker. Listen to yourselves. Here you are, threatening I think it was like a lifetime solitary confinement. The risk of lifetime or life in solitary confinement for an expired tube of toothpaste. You're out of your goddamn mind. That's ridiculous. A Bangkok shrine bombing. So, I don't know if anyone caught the video of this. I'd like to know, so what's been happening in Bangkok, I mean, for a while now, there's been political unrest, right? And the way that it kind of breaks down is you have the historically dispossessed people who comprise the farmers from the countryside, the rural populations who exist kind of opposite the royal or the moneyed mercantile class or royal class. I really don't know. I can't speak to it. I don't know enough about Thai politics to tell you how it breaks down. But essentially, you have these two groups, one of which happens to be the farmers. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if the farmers who have been protesting, but it's been, I don't know, more or less, it's been relatively non-violent. I mean, I haven't seen anywhere near the amount of press that I saw, say, in Hong Kong, though what should be noted is that the reason why that is because China, or the PRC, the agenda of the PRC is naturally, it's naturally at odds with the United States, the government of the United States. So obviously, if there's social unrest happening in Hong Kong and that makes the PRC look bad, then of course we're going to see it. Whereas in a country like Thailand, in which the ruling class is the ally, in many respects, of the U.S. government, we do military training together, there are trade deals, they're seen as an ally in the region. If the people in a position of power there are misusing their power, okay, or maybe they're incredibly corrupt. We've seen, in the history of U.S. foreign policy that we have no problem with being friends with horrible dictatorships and tyrannies around the world, so far as it benefits our interests, right? If they're our dictators, if they're our dissidents, it goes on either side, on either side of the coin there, then you're going to see that press in the Western media. It just so follows. Now, this is kind of an indictment of the media as an institution, because, the Fourth Estate is supposed to, their job is to kind of objectively report the news, or as objectively as possible. All right. There's no real way to objectively report on anything. There's always going to be some hints, some glints, some stains, some hue of bias in any report. But the shrine bombing happened. Now that's unfortunate. It's really terrible that something like that would happen. But all of the protesting that had been ongoing in Thailand, in Bangkok, maybe or maybe not leading up to this, has garnered little to no press in the Western media. You have no idea, unless you're researching this stuff, you're looking into it. I mean, I don't know how many people research there's just too much to research for everyone to be an expert on Thai politics, right? Especially, given the fact that there are so many other things going on in the Western sphere, let alone the Middle East and Europe and Greece and the Eurozone and blah, whatever, that, it's kind of, it can't, you can't be expected to know all these things, but, so, yeah, Bangkok shrine bombing is really terrible. There's some reporting on the rise of Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. Here you have two candidates, one born in Brooklyn, one born in Queens. I mean, this is going to be the battle of kings and queens. And it's rather appropriate that you have, these other more diminutive figures now. I mean, you could see Jeb Bush dwarfs in comparison to Donald Trump. Where here you have like the dynastic representatives in Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush being eclipsed by the representatives of the borough of Brooklyn, the borough of Queens, the borough of Brooklyn, otherwise known as the borough of Kings, but it goes by Brooklyn. I think that's kind of poetry on a level. Let's see what else. The new Martian film. It's being released soon. I heard a really good interview with the author of the book that inspired that movie. I'll post it in the link, in the links. And there was another piece that I wanted to share with you. So, the Martian interview. Dana Carvey and John Lovitz recently had a sit down at the Comedy Store in LA. That is fucking hilarious. I recommend it highly. I'll include the link in the description. Everyone who's listening to this, stop this. Well, don't stop this, but pause this podcast now and go over and watch that sit down with Dana Carvey and John Lovitz. It is comedy gold, and it's great to see Dana Carvey, in the public eye again. He had disappeared for quite some time. There was a medical malpractice suit. He went in to get a bypass, and the fucking surgeon mistakenly bypassed the healthy artery. And when it went to court, Dana Carvey's his goal was never to defame the surgeon or anything. He just, there was an error, there was a mistake that happened, and he wanted to make sure that that error was corrected, both in the surgeon and in him. So he had to undergo the surgery again to have the correct artery bypass. But all the money that was made from that malpractice suit went to build an orphanage or a school in a third world country in French Polynesia or somewhere in the South Pacific, I think. So good on Dana Carvey for that. But I mean, he's definitely been sorely missed. Really, really funny guy. You know, just a great comedic mind, very shrewd, very intelligent, but fun. And I'm happy to see him return. So many of you who know me are familiar with the concept, but some of those who are listening might be kind of ignorant of it. But I've been for many years an active transhumanist, active in transhumanism, popularizing the concepts, popularizing talking to whoever I can talk to about what transhumanism is and what it means for humanity. Now, there's just a brief note. What is transhumanism? Transhumanism, usually abbreviated. Now, this is kind of a new invention. The community had to decide upon this. I think this happened, 2001, between 2001 and 2006. That's kind of a wide range, isn't it? There was a decision that was made at some point, how to abbreviate transhumanism, because it's kind of a lengthy word, and we went with H+, right? H+ meaning human plus, basically an augmented human, and depending on your definition of transhuman, you could have as loose a definition as to say that any human being who uses any measure of technology to enhance or otherwise extend their capabilities qualifies as a transhuman. That said, with that kind of liberal definition, someone who is wearing a piece of clothing or is completely naked, save for a wristwatch or a filling in their tooth or a contact lens in their eye, constitutes a transhuman. Now, there are other people who feel that that's too loose a definition. Just because I'm holding a phone and I'm completely naked does not mean that I am does not a transhumanist make. We have distinctions between transhuman and posthuman, where transhuman would be someone maybe with a little bit more stricter definition. A transhuman would be someone with some type of physical augmentation that extends their capacity. Posthuman would be someone who has completely merged with technology, and this merging of biotechnology and what we would classically think of as like electronic technology, something having to do with semiconductors and computation, using electrons or what have you. This is that would fulfill the definition of what it would mean to be a post-human, right? You'd merge this biotechnology, which itself, I mean, I'm just in a definitional minefield here, but biotechnology meaning that your body as it is, as it exists, and all biology can be interpreted as technology, right? And we have evidence, there are examples of small structures in certain animals or even in our own cellular biology that mimic in many ways, or rather it's actually the other way around. Our technology mimics the way in which these biological structures function, right? So transhumanism, posthumanism, however you want to call it, for a while now I've been kind of popularizing this movement. The definition strictly is according to Wikipedia, an international cultural and intellectual movement with an eventual goal of fundamentally transforming the human condition by developing and making widely available technologies to greatly enhance human intellectual, physical, and psychological capacities. It seems to be there's a taxonomy there I don't necessarily agree with. I think it's all ultimately physical, but that's to be debated. So transhumanism, you could say, has existed since the dawn of man, right? Since the advent of fire, or our ability to control it, to summon it, and, since the advent of spears to hunt with, and so on and so forth. With that said, however, this word, transhumanism, encapsulates a modern movement that's much more focused on leveraging technological innovations like the semiconductor, to extend or enhance human capacity, human capabilities, right? So, with that, a friend of mine on Facebook, anyway, we haven't met yet, named Zoltan Istvan, is running for president. And he has established the Transhumanist Party. And he's garnered a lot of press on a number of different media outlets. And we all knew going into this that Zoltan's goal was never to be elected, right? We knew that because the public is largely ignorant of transhumanism, even though they're really not. Intuitively, everyone kind of knows what it is, but no one really... It hasn't been formalized in the public psyche. It's not a fixture of the zeitgeist, as it were. Like, it really hasn't reached the level of critical mass. We're still kind of climbing the hill on that. But anyway, Zoltan is running for president, and he's trying to, get people informed about what transhumanism is. A little blurb from the Transhumanist Party website. We aim to uphold the energy and political might of millions of transhumanist advocates out there who desire to use science and technology to significantly improve their lives. There is, of course, the Transhumanist Declaration, which outlines the goals and ideas. We'll give a brief read-through on that. So the first point in the Transhumanist Declaration, 1. Humanity stands to be profoundly affected by science and technology in the future. We envision the possibility of broadening human potential by overcoming aging, cognitive shortcomings, involuntary suffering, and our confinement to planet Earth. 2. We believe that humanity's potential is still mostly unrealized. There are possible scenarios that lead to wonderful and exceedingly worthwhile enhanced human conditions. 3. We recognize that humanity faces serious risks, especially from the misuse of new technologies. There are possible realistic scenarios that lead to the loss of most or even all of what we hold valuable. Some of these scenarios are drastic, others are subtle. Although all progress is change, not all change is progress. 4. Research effort needs to be invested into understanding these prospects. We need to carefully deliberate how best to reduce risks and expedite beneficial applications. We also need forums where people can constructively discuss what should be done, and a social order where responsible decisions can be implemented. 5. Reduction of existential risks and development of means for the preservation of life and health and alleviation of grave suffering, and the improvement of human foresight and wisdom should be pursued as urgent priorities and heavily funded. 6. Policy making ought to be guided by responsible and inclusive moral vision, taking seriously both opportunities and risks, respecting autonomy and individual rights, and showing solidarity with and concern for the interests and dignity of all people around the globe. we must also consider our moral responsibilities towards generations that will exist in the future. 7. We advocate the well-being of all sentients, including humans, non-human animals, and any future artificial intellects, modified life forms, or other intelligence to which technological and scientific advance may give rise. 8. We favor allowing individuals wide personal choice over how they enable their lives. This includes use of techniques that may be developed to assist memory, concentration, and mental energy, life extension therapies, reproductive choice technologies, cryonics procedures, and many other human modification and enhancement technologies. And this has been undersigned by a number of people. Originally, the declaration was crafted in 1998 by the group of authors, and it was adopted by the Humanity Plus board in March of 2009. So it gives you a sense of like what the Transhumanist Party kind of stands for. Okay, there was a founding party article that was published in the Huffington Post. Should a transhumanist run for U.S. president? And I'd like to take just a little bit more of our time here today to read that. So this was written by Zoltan in 2014, published December 8th, 2014. It reads, I'm in the very early stages of preparing a campaign to try to run in the 2016 election for U.S. president. I'll be doing it as a transhumanist for the Transhumanist Party, a political organization I recently founded that seeks to use science and technology to radically improve the human being and the society we live in. In addition to upholding American values, prosperity, and security, the three primary goals of my political agenda are as follows. 1. Attempt to do everything possible to make it so that this country's amazing scientists and technologists have resources to overcome human death and aging within 15 to 20 years, a goal an increasing number of leading scientists think is reachable. 2. Create a cultural mindset in America that embracing and producing radical technology and scientific advances is in the best interests of our nation and species. 3. Create national and global safeguards and programs that protect against abusive technology and other possible planetary perils we might face as we transition into the transhumanist era. Now, just as a quick aside, you'll hear this a lot. Existential risk. An existential risk, insofar as the human species is concerned, is any event that could spell the extinction of the species. This is a serious concern recently, insofar as artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence, to some, after reading Nick Bostrom's book Superintelligence, there were a number of technologists in the popular media, or in technology, such as Elon Musk, such as Stephen Hawking, such as Steve Wozniak, who raised red flags on artificial intelligence because the risks exist. So, as such, any kind of platform that would be advancing or kind of promoting the development of more and more highly advanced technologies would have to be sensitive to the fact that there is a potential, there is an existential risk attached to these pursuits, to these enterprises. So one of the things you'll see both in the Transhumanist Declaration and in Zoltan's article here is the importance to let people know that we are aware of the dangers inherent. We don't want a Skynet-like scenario, and we will take appropriate measures, appropriate steps to mitigate those risks, right? This is just basic ORM, operational risk management. When you go into a situation, you assess the risks, implement controls, supervise, sir. So, the 3 points, right? Create national and global safeguards, create a cultural mindset, attempt to do everything possible to overcome human death and aging, right? That kind of forms the bedrock of Zoltan's platform. He goes on. These 3 goals are so simple and obvious you'd think every politician in the 21st century would be publicly and passionately pursuing them, but they're not. They're more interested in landing your votes, in making you slave away at low-paying jobs, in keeping you addicted to shopping for Chinese-made trinkets, in forcing you to accept bandage medicine and its death culture, and in getting you to pay as much tax as possible for far-off wars, places where most of us will never step foot in. While I look forward to the challenge of being involved in politics, the reality is, of course, that it's totally improbable a new independent party and its candidate will get elected. It probably will be possible to even get on. It probably will be impossible to even get on many state ballots. Obviously, I'm aware of that. Why do it then? Because it's a start. And if transhumanists, a growing group consisting of futurists, life extensionists, biohackers, technologists, singularitarians, cryonicists, techno-optimists, and many other scientifically minded people are serious about the pending future, then it's time to get involved in the political game. Enough lawyers and politicians over the years have had their fill. Enough faith-touting Congress members have stifled this country. Enough WASP-supporting men have sat and tried to dictate its terms for too long. Transhumanists must get involved to protect and usher in their futures. Their futures, meaning our future, meaning a collective, a positive future. This is an aside. Transhumanism doesn't appeal to any single demographic. Okay? Regardless of what the statistics show, which is that more white males are involved in science and technology, the goals of transhumanism, the goals of a Steve Wozniak, who I can't say is a transhumanist, but I would think that he is one, is not to benefit an elite few, is not to benefit an elite group of white men. The goals of technology, what technology wants, although I haven't read the book, Kevin Kelly, I'm sure, lays out the plan that technology's, has no gender or sexual orientation or racial or ethnic requirement. An iPhone is going to benefit the user of an iPhone regardless of what socioeconomic level that person comes from. However, there are certain obstacles preventing someone at a lower level of the socioeconomic strata from affording an iPhone. There's a barrier inherent there. But the goal, the bigger goal of technology, of transhumanism, is to automate ourselves out of the drudgery of having to worry about getting a job, to get money, to be able to afford goods and services. And this kind of segues into a discussion about post-scarcity economics, abundance, guaranteed basic minimum income, but we'll get there in a few. So it goes on. The transhumanism movement goes back decades to a time when philosophers, futurists, and scientists began understanding how fast technology could solve all the world's problems. The movement has continued to grow and is now spreading amongst the youth like wildfire. There are many employees at major tech companies like Apple, Facebook, and Google who subscribe to transhumanist aims. Transhumanism-themed conferences, groups, and even schools like Singularity University are popping up. Notably, even Italy has recently elected a transhumanist parliament member named Giuseppe Vattino. Another transhumanist politician, Gabrielle Rothblatt, is running for U.S. Congress in Florida's 8th District. The term transhumanism is, of course, just a label, like Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or Tea Partier, but the label is important nonetheless. This is because there is a big difference between those who appreciate science and those who are willing to use it to fundamentally alter themselves and society in the 21st century. In the next 25 years, all of us will face a choice about how far we want to take technology and science. All of us will face a transhumanist wager. Artificial hearts will become better than the best human hearts. Bionic arms will become superior to human arms. Smartphones will become the size of a fingernail and will likely be implanted into your body. Speaking out loud will disappear as the modern world uses mind-reading headsets to communicate, which already exist. Where will you stand? How far will you take technology in your life? The future is less about Social Security, climate change, immigrant border traffic, taxes, terrorism, the economy, and the myriad other issues that flash across news headlines every day, and more about how far we are willing to use science and technology to fundamentally alter the human being and the human experience. That transhumanism future doesn't care what color skin you have, what your sexual orientation is, what faith you embrace, where you were born, what type of job you have, or what political perspective you hold. Transhumanism is not a political end, but a life-affirming commitment to becoming one's best self using the help of reason, science, and technology. It doesn't belong to any formally established political system or party. It's only concerned with reaching its goals and being true to its ideals. My own politics are similar. I am interested in making the most headway we can into our future. Friends, we've all seen what's happening lately. The transhumanist era is literally upon us. Those paralyzed and bound to wheelchairs can walk via exoskeletons. Those who have never heard sound can now hear via cochlear implants. Gunshot victims who are dead are brought back to life via suspended animation. The poverty rate is the lowest it's ever been around the world. Science and technology are responsible for these joys and successes, and it's time that those joys and successes be recognized. We spend so little of our resources on the brilliance that science can bring all of us. America still spends almost 10 times its resources on defense than on science and medical research. It spends approximately 4 times its resources on the prison system than on education for our kids. It spends at least 100 times its wealth on bureaucratic-inspired legal fees than on critical life extension science to keep its citizens alive. This is why a transhumanist politician could be an extraordinary help to the nation and the 21st century. The future is coming so fast that unless we change the paradigm and how we lead our great nation forward, we'll find ourselves at the mercy of such powerful technology. It's time to introduce the future to our political leaders who will lead this country forward. The Transhumanist Party will not win this election, but it can change the questions the real elected leaders will ask. That is something significant indeed. And I'll post a link to the article in the information. So that's it in a nutshell, right? He's under no what would you say? Like he has no he harbors no fantasies about the likelihood of a transhumanist candidate being elected. But that, again, as it was stated, that's not the point. So right now, what's happening with Zoltan is he's not polling because, I mean, we're just not showing up on the radar. But again, that's not the point. What's happening now is the party has been officially established. What needs to happen is for people in cities and towns across the nation to take up the mantle of transhumanism, to get active in their community, and to form their own local chapters. their own state chapters, okay, to increase and enhance the profile of the party nationwide. So a strong local base strengthens the national party, just like the Democrats, just like the Republicans. So that's what's needed now. Now, Zoltan and transhumanists in general are actively seeking out people who are interested in science and technology, interested about benefiting their society, their community, and the world, and are politically active or would like to be. If you happen to be one of those people, then I will leave information, and I want you to start your own local chapter. Okay? And that's how we'll get this done. We are moving at a snail's pace, at a fraction of the pace that we are capable. And like I said in the last podcast, we're talking about the role of government. What can government do? Government comprises some very large gears. And if you can motivate those gears towards and direct that fire towards a goal, there's nothing that can't be done. There is nothing that can't be done. Look at the Apollo moon landing. I mean, we did that like what in less than a decade. Took us about a decade from the speech that JFK made to finally setting boots on the moon. We're capable of so much. It's just a matter of organizing this vast structure, however loose. I mean, you don't even have to have a surgical target end state that you want. You can just kind of ballpark it, okay? You shoot for the stars, you hit the moon. That's how it works. We don't need to be so specific. Now, once it concerns certain existential threats, the need to be rather specific is important. But that issue, the issue of friendly AI, which has been, talked about for years and years and years, the necessity for AI to at its foundational level be friendly. I mean, this goes back to Asimov's 3 laws and the work done by Yudkowsky on friendly AI. I just don't know how much we are going to be able to actually control it. I think that if an AI is born into a loving researcher's laboratory, and that they're taught the concept of love, then they should be fairly well adjusted. If they're born into a much more sterile, kind of violent or otherwise traumatic kind of environment, then that might not be so good. But I think the likelihood that we're going to have nefarious AI, the likelihood that we'll have, beneficent AI, that there should be an equal value attributed to each. There's an equal probability that an AI born will be a sociopath, then they will be, a good member of our planetary society. With that said, it doesn't mean that we don't go into it with these concerns in mind. Obviously, existential risks are... If you're not concerned about the existential risks, you're basically an idiot. I mean, that's like, you know, you're going to the moon and you don't think about how you might secure yourself in the cockpit of the shuttle or the command module of the rocket when you take off. I mean, there are just certain things, you know. When I go outside, I put shoes on because I don't want to cut my feet on glass that might be in the city street, right? So it should be done, but I just don't know how much legwork can be done to secure the initial starting conditions such that the resulting creation doesn't really just decide for itself. I mean, isn't that the point of artificial intelligence? But then when we talk about AI, we tend to infantilize it. This thing is going to be so much more vastly intelligent than any of us could even begin to imagine, that to even begin to try to project behaviors or predilections or, you know, nuance human psychological traits on this thing would be like, you know, the grasshopper trying to speak to the Buddha. It's just not going to work. This thing would be so much more vastly intelligent and capable that we lack the vocabulary, except in maybe certain religious institutions who have developed a vocabulary to understand what interacting with a god level being would be like. I mean, that's what it would kind of be akin to. Although there's nothing to say that the AI might not have some kind of personal disposition, some kind of personal form that it might take on in order to interact with the minutia. But then if it's interacting with us, who's to say that it's not interacting with even the lower primates or even down into the insects, right? So it's just hard to say. Needless to say, it's important that the risks be considered. And I'll post the links, the relevant links. I think I mentioned Yudkowsky and Asimov's 3 Rules of Robotics. One question that I have for the community is like this distinction between AI and robots. I hear people, and we know software are there's some software called bots, right? It's a bot, right? Which is short for robot. But I mean, my imagination of a robot is a physical thing like Bender or C-3PO. This is a thing made out of metal. It is programmed. It has an AI, but the robot itself is like, you know, the body. Robot is to human as AI is to mind, that kind of thing. Not to falsely dichotomize. I don't want to say that, you know, maybe there isn't some distinction, some difference between body and mind, or that distinction doesn't exist and in fact is all body. I tend to lean towards the latter. I don't believe in the transcendence of the soul. I think that we are contained in our physical bodies, and that although the sum of the whole might equal more than the sum of the parts, the sum of the whole is still the sum of the parts. Does that? I know that's contradictory, but I feel like if you put something together, yes, that thing that you build at the end is greater than if you were to just take apart the parts, but that the parts are absolutely necessary in order to build the whole for that emergent, larger order soul, if you will, to exist. But so that's it, I think, for today. system note, if you're looking to donate to the podcast, again, we're completely shoestring bootstrap here. We could take, or I could take any amount of funding that you would feel I would be deserving of. That could help pay for web space, for graphic design work, so on and so forth. I reached out to a friend of mine, Maker, who is a really talented artist from Boston, by way of Strong Island, and he's agreed graciously to donate some work, but I would like to see him remunerated if possible. So any funding that we would get would go towards these ends, and I would be incredibly appreciative of it and thankful. That just about concludes the podcast for today. If you have any questions, we have yet to establish the email address. So for the time being, if you hear this, give me a shout at benjamin.peterson@gmail.com. We have no website. There's no Reddit account. There's no Instagram or Twitter. It's all being run through my own personal accounts. You can catch me on Twitter at twitter.com/worldpeace, one word. And again, my email, if you have any questions, shoot them my way. And tell your friends about us, because as it exists, we're a nascent podcast. We're just beginning to emerge, and we're looking for viewers, If you're looking to help out the podcast in some way, shoot me an email. Maybe there's something we can do. As I stated in the last one, I know there was some desire on part of a number of you to kind of collaborate with me. Unfortunately, given the kind of the strangeness of my schedule and the awkwardness of my calendar, we were unable to schedule anything. But if you'd like to reach out, maybe we can schedule something. I'd like to have some kind of back and forth with someone. I'm going to look into scheduling guests. We'll see who we can get. I still have to kind of surmount the technological requirements for that. It shouldn't be too complicated, but, I mean, it takes time, right? So I'll look into that. Yeah, if you're looking, what I would be looking for, because my schedule is so erratic, I won't be able to do one every day, right? So if we were able to break it up, like I do Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you do Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, or whatever the case may be, if there's 3 or more broadcasters, then we can develop like a full-fledged network, right? And strengthen numbers. So that's what I would advise that we do. Yeah, that's about all that I have for today. So we covered the news in brief review. I'll post the Dana Carvey interview, that Martian interview, with Startup Saturdays or Startup Sundays. It's another podcast that I really like to listen to. Yudkowsky's essay on friendly AI, Asimov's 3 rules of robotics, all of the Zoltan Istvan stuff about the Transhumanist Party, and maybe I'll just take a screenshot. All I did was go to Google News and kind of read off the news items. We did cover like Thai politics a little bit, Clinton, and the contradiction is there, the absurdness of Chelsea Manning being found guilty of having expired toothpaste, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that just about ends the review. So, that's all we have. Thank you very much for listening. Please tune in next time, and take care. All right. World peace.